And welcome back to our live election night coverage here at Channel 13. We have a panel of experts here to kind of analyze what they see happening. And the first thing really is to set up what are the big storylines? What's the big picture story right now in this primary midterm election? And to kind of set the stage and answer that question first, let's go to Dr. Borja. What do you see here from 10,000 feet, Melissa?
Well, I'm a historian by training, so I want to take this moment and put it in broader historical context. Generally, we know that in midterm elections, the party in power does not do well. So, for example, 2010, Obama and the Democrats did horribly. Fast forward to 2018, Trump and the Republicans also did horribly. This could be a moment where we see that play out again. However, we also know that historically, 97% of incumbents in Indiana win. And we have a lot of Republican incumbents in Indiana. So I have lots of questions about how these forces will play out. I do think we need to pay attention to the very particularities of this moment, which is Donald Trump weighing in on these elections at the state level.
Yeah, so do you think, Robert, that this could be kind of an answer to how much influence Donald Trump has in Indiana? $13 million in these races against these incumbents who you would think would be heavily favored, but...
First thing I want to say very quickly, kudos and God bless to all the election workers today. The poll workers, the people in the clerk's office. I ran the elections for Marion County for 3-4 years, way back 20 years ago. It is a terribly important job with a lot of scrutiny. Thank all those people who got up. Now they're all high on Long's Donuts at the moment, but still.
And then cold pizza.
Yeah, that's right. You know, when Donald Trump is on the ballot in Indiana, he is invincible. Double-digit wins. I mean, everyone knows that Trump's margin in 2016 pulled Eric Holcomb over the finish line. Right. That's just a fact. When he's not on the ballot, that's when things get a little more dicey. We will know tonight, you know, the people who have come here to be against these senators, they're not political dummies. They may not win every race, but they're smart politicos, especially for this state. I'm going to be very interested to see, because what will that mean for 2028 when you have Senate race, governor's race? All that's going to be into a big giant blender that's going to get mixed up, and we'll see what happens. To me, I think Trump still has considerable influence in this state.
Do you think, Ann, the incumbents are in trouble or not?
Well, I think, yes, it's possible some of them are in trouble. I think it would be very unlikely that he wins all 8. And as I said, it would be a big slap in the face if he doesn't. You know, politics in this state, even though it's ordinarily a red state, is like a pendulum. They have been in one-party control for a quarter of a century. And that breeds the arrogance that this whole primary fight shows. I mean, instead of talking about the fact that we have the highest residential utility rates in the Midwest, or that you can't send your kids to college, or we're not funding schools enough. All of the issues, you can't buy a house, all the issues real people are concerned about, they spend time and money on a redistricting. And to try to steal a couple of seats because they don't think Donald Trump can keep the House based on his waning numbers and waning popularity, I frankly think he's going to lose an incredible number of seats this election. And it's going to make this redistricting brouhaha anticlimactic. I would be shocked if he didn't lose 40 House seats. And so that's really the story. And the question in my mind is the pendulum's swinging the Democratic way. And I think the Democratic turnout reflects that. People are enthused. They're excited. They think there's a possibility for change. They think we could beat the supermajority. We could beat Diego Morales, who's been a disgrace in that office. And I think that feeds on itself. It helps raise money. It brings out good candidates. And maybe the pendulum's swung enough.
You know, Dr. Borja, everything that Ann listed there, I think you could put under the umbrella of affordability, whether you're talking about education, childcare, gasoline, housing. Right. You know, this is what we hear from, you know, when we go out and we talk with voters, that these are their concerns. How much do you think that that's a driver?
I think that's everything. One thing I've been thinking about a lot is we're here talking a lot about redistricting, but does the average voter actually care about redistricting? Honestly, it was in December. That feels like a century ago. People care about what's happening right now. The fact that gas is $5 a gallon, the fact that my friends are sending their kids to college next year and they're very worried about paying the bills. So I think affordability is a big problem. And I don't think it's playing well for either party. I don't think any party is really popular right now. I was just looking at data from the Pew Research Center. They found that 58% of Americans don't like the Republicans, 59% don't like the Democrats. It might have been spitch, but they're very close, 58, 59%. So Americans are pretty unhappy right now with both parties because their daily lives are tough.
We did hear in the last elections that people said, I didn't like either candidate. And then we said, well, that's why voter turnout was down. But now, maybe I'm just trying to think, what is getting them out there? Because it's like, I feel like I don't like how things are. Is this going to make a difference?
Well, I think there are a number of things at play. First of all, it's dissatisfaction with the way things are going. The direction of the country is all in the negative. But I think it's also partly enthusiasm. I see a lot of enthusiasm, for example, on the state ticket for the Democrats. I mean, we have had contests in district after district to be a state delegate to the convention. That never happens. There's twice as many people filed for delegate to the state convention for Democrats as the last time. So there is enthusiasm in addition to dissatisfaction.
So I have a question to follow up on that. Are you finding that this is a younger demographic? Because when we talk about Donald Trump and we talk about Jim Baird, you know, we're talking about men in their 80s.
Right.
You know, are you seeing this of a younger group that is coming in that wants to be delegates? Or is it kind of the old guard coming back and saying, all right, I'm going to re-engage?
No, I think there's a lot of young people that are enthusiastic, and we have a number of young candidates out there. Obviously, Bo Bai is, what, 30?
Right.
Okay, but all of those candidates that were running in those House and Senate races are younger. And I think that does drive the enthusiasm, yes.
Yeah. Robert?
I don't think that the Democrats want to run on affordability, considering the inflation rate under the previous president
They will
and the
remember that,
residuals of
Robert.
that.
That's yesterday's news.
I'm still paying my mortgage off of high interest rates. That
And
happens.
Donald Trump was supposed to lower it in the first week, remember?
He wasn't president when I got my mortgage.
Okay,
My
but
point
he
is
was
that
when he was elected.
egg prices are down. Yes, gas is up because of what's happening in Iran. Inflation is certainly a heck of a lot lower than it was under President Biden. I mean, that's just the numbers, neutral numbers. So affordability is always top of mind. I don't know if that's a dispositive factor in some of these races. These local races, these Senate and House races here in Indiana, so forget DC for a while, they grew up with the person who's their senator. They went to high school. They went to the prom with the person who's their House member. Long, long, long relationships, friendships. And the insurgents are asking voters to put that aside. That is a very difficult thing to do, because I can tell you this, as a Republican, there are Democrats I would never, ever campaign against or say a bad word about because they're my friends. But if I was sitting here and I'm a Republican and I go to the primary and it's somebody I've known for 40 years against someone I'd known for 40 days, I may not like this person's views on every issue, but I like him. I like her.
That flies in the face of the fact that younger people are coming out and voting. They haven't gone to the prom with the incumbent Republican. They haven't known them for 40 years. They haven't been alive for 40 years. And they want change, and they want somebody that looks like them and knows how difficult it is to buy a house. You're lucky that you've got it, whatever the mortgage rate is. A lot of people can't afford it. And I will run, or I counsel Democrats to run on affordability, because Joe Biden and inflation is yesterday's news. And Trump said that when he got into office, inflation was going to go, mortgage rates were going to go down, gas was going to go down, on and on and on, and he hasn't delivered.
But inflation did go down. Gas did go down prior to the Iran strikes.
The prices didn't go down.
Yes, they did.
The prices for food did not go down.
Well, I was paying $10 for a carton of eggs, and now I pay $2.
Eggs,
So,
well, first of all, if you're paying $2, you're really lucky, because that's lower than what the going rate is. But, you know.
He goes to Costco and he's doing it on an average. All right.
Ann's point is well taken. Let me just say that disproportionately older people vote. People above 50. I'm sure
That's true.
Younger people have more enthusiasm. Older people are more reliable when it comes to the polling places. I'll put my money on the 50-plus people who actually show up, as opposed to the 20-year-old who posts on social media.
Well, we'll
What
see.
do you think about, it's kind of that devil you know is his argument.
I will just say that my daughter voted for the first time today. I'm very proud of her.
And how old is she?
She is 17, but she turns 18 by
18
election,
by election day.
and her voting right was challenged, and she brought out her voter Bill of Rights and advocated for something. I'm very proud of you, Bea. High fives.
Yeah.
But I just want to point out one thing. Yes, older people vote at higher rates. I also want to point out, as State Enrolled Act 10 indicates, there are barriers to younger people voting. For example, the
Student
new
ID.
laws around student IDs. And so it is more difficult in many ways than it was 10 years ago for people to vote. So we need to keep that in mind. But I spend a lot of time with young people. They know that their vote matters now. They know what the stakes are. And so they are showing up. I'm enthusiastic about that.
Well, especially because the population at Purdue, I mean, that is a big population, and there's nothing that makes you want something more than when you're told you can't have it, right? Nothing's going to motivate you more, especially that age group, that they're going to want to go out and turn out. Do you think that could be a factor in that district?
I think the bigger factor is people are frustrated about their futures. You know, they're worried about student debt. They are worried about being able to have a well-paying job. They care about climate change. They don't want data centers in their backyards. They want to be able to have the future that their parents had. And I think that's why they're talking about issues. And I do think if we look at 2024, there were a lot of people who chose not to vote because they were frustrated by the options available to them. I do think there is a little bit more of a sense of political efficacy among young people today.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We're going to have more time tonight to kind of look deeper into some of the issues. But for now, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.